The royal hall was filled with laughter. High-ranking alien lords smirked, whispering behind glowing robes. Some even pointed. In the middle of them all stood Princess Zelna, tall, graceful, with pale blue skin and glowing silver eyes. Her hands were tied, not with ropes, but with shame. "She's barren," one old noble sneered. "Useless to the bloodline. Send her away. She cannot carry life. Let her live among the humans," another chuckled. "Let her see what true worth means." A decision was made. Zelna would be sent to a remote human colony, far away from the royal planets. It was not exile for crime. It was worse. It was humiliation, a living joke. The spaceship landed on a small green planet called Taros 9. Quiet forests, empty skies, and no politics. Waiting near the farm fields was a human. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and covered in dirt. Jacob Wren, a former soldier, now a lonely farmer. He didn't smile. He didn't ask why a princess was being delivered to his home like a package. He just took her bag, looked her in the eyes, and said, "You hungry?" Zelna didn't reply. She was tired, cold, broken inside. Jacob led her to a small house made of wood and stone. Simple, clean, safe. He gave her a blanket and some soup. No guards, no servants, just silence. She sat on the floor and looked at the fire. No one laughed here. That night, Zelna walked outside. The wind was soft. Stars twinkled. But something strange happened. Wherever her bare feet touched the soil, tiny glowing flowers bloomed. Just for a second, then disappeared. She stopped. Was she imagining it? A breeze moved through the forest. And then she heard it, a heartbeat, slow, deep, coming from beneath the ground. She placed her hand on the soil. The beat matched hers, like something hidden, was listening to her pain. The next morning, Jacob was fixing a broken water pipe. Zelna watched from the steps. "Why, did you accept me?" she asked softly. Jacob didn't look up. "Didn't ask for you, but I don't throw people out either." "I'm not a real princess," she whispered. "I cannot give children," Jacob shrugged. "I don't need a child. I need someone who doesn't talk too much and maybe helps feed the goats." Zelna smiled for the first time. It was small but real. Days passed. Then weeks. Something strange began to happen. Jacob's crops, once dry and dying, started growing fast. The machines he abandoned long ago began working again, without repair. Even the animals became calmer around Zelna. She would hum alien songs while walking through the field, and the plants would lean toward her. Jacob noticed. "You sure you're barren?" He joked one evening. Zelna froze, but this time she didn't feel pain. "I was told that since I was a child," she said slowly, "but I never felt empty, just disconnected." Jacob didn't push, but he looked at the earth, the sky, then at her. One night a strange storm came. No wind, no rain, just light ribbons of blue fire dancing in the sky. Zelna stood outside in the glowing field, eyes wide. The heartbeat returned, louder, closer. She followed it to the edge of the woods. There, hidden under thick roots, she saw a stone. Smooth, round, covered in old alien script. It pulsed softly. She reached out. As soon as her fingers touched it, her body glowed. Not brightly, but gently. Like the inside of her was waking up. Visions filled her mind. Alien queens, standing in gardens made of light, giving birth not through pain but through energy and song. She fell to her knees. Something inside her whispered, "You are not barren. You were just never home." Inside the house, Jacob heard her scream. He ran into the woods with a flashlight and found her passed out near the stone. He carried her back gently, like she was glass. He laid her on the bed, covering her with a warm sheet. Zelna opened her eyes and whispered, "Jacob, I felt something inside me." "Move," Jacob blinked. "You mean like, I don't know," she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. But it wasn't empty. Not anymore. The morning sun rose gently over the hills of Taros 9, painting gold across the green fields. Princess Zelna stood barefoot on the soft earth, her silver eyes staring at the glowing flowers blooming wherever she stepped. It wasn't normal. It wasn't magic. It felt like the land was calling her. Beside her, Jacob Wren adjusted a tool belt and checked the solar panels on the roof. "You sleep all right?" he asked, brushing sweat from his brow. Zelna nodded slowly. "I dreamed of voices," she whispered. "They weren't from the stars. They were from the ground," Jacob chuckled. Maybe the potatoes are trying to talk, but Zelna didn't laugh. I think something is alive beneath this land. In the following days, the farm changed even more. Jacob's dead tomato vines grew tall overnight. His broken drone, which hadn't flown in 2 years, suddenly powered on. The well that always gave dry water now flowed clear. The chickens laid twice as many eggs. But none of this frightened Jacob. What did surprise him was Zelna's smile. A small one, soft, but growing every day. She started humming again, ancient songs from her lost home. When she walked through the rows of vegetables, the wind followed her steps. And her skin? It no longer looked pale. It shimmered like silver dust. One evening, Jacob found her standing under a tree, hand on her belly, eyes wide. "I feel something," she whispered, "like a ripple. Inside me." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're not just full from dinner?" Zelna shook her head. "No, it's warm, moving, but not like a child. Not yet, like a signal waking up." Later that night, thunder echoed in the distance, but there was no storm. Zelna woke in the dark. The strange heartbeat sound was back, deeper now, faster. She followed it barefoot through the foggy field. She reached the strange stone she had seen before, the one hidden beneath roots. It glowed again, brighter than before. Zelna touched it carefully. This time she didn't collapse. Instead, a clear vision filled her mind. She saw a garden in space. Queens with silver skin sang songs into the soil, and the earth answered by giving life. Children were not born from pain, but from connection, energy, harmony. She wasn't broken. Her body simply needed the right planet, and this one responded. Suddenly, the stone spoke, not with words, but with light symbols rising into the air. One symbol glowed brighter than all the others. Fertility restored. Zelna gasped. Her heart raced. She turned to run and tell Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob had already noticed the changes. Not just in the farm, but in Zelna herself. He stared at her plate one evening. She ate more than usual. Her cheeks had color. Her voice carried strength now. "Maybe you're not what they said you were," he muttered. Zelna blinked. "You mean, not Barren?" Jacob nodded. "I've seen life before. You have it now. In your steps. In your hands." For a moment, Zelna's eyes shimmered with tears. She didn't cry, but she felt something deep inside. Hope. But peace didn't last. Far above the skies of Taros 9, a small black ship slipped out of stealth mode. Inside it sat an alien named Varoth, a royal bounty hunter. He stared at his screen, eyes narrow. "Zelna, the broken princess," he hissed, hiding among humans like a rat. A whisper in his ear told him her location. He smirked. Let's see if she's still empty, or carrying something valuable. On the farm, Zelna felt her skin prickle. That night, she had a dream of metal wings in the sky, of fire burning her garden, and of Jacob reaching for her, but disappearing in smoke. She woke up gasping. Jacob rushed to her side. Zelna clutched her stomach. It didn't hurt, but it pulsed. A second heartbeat. "I'm not alone," she whispered. The next morning, she went back to the glowing stone. It had changed. Now its surface showed a moving image, a map. Dots of light appeared, and one red dot blinked closer to her position. Jacob studied it. "Someone's coming," he said. Zelna touched her belly again. "They will take me back. But this time, I carry more than shame." Night fell quietly over the farm on Taros 9, but the air was not calm. The trees stood still. Even the insects went silent. Something was coming, and Princess Zelna could feel it in her bones. She sat by the fire, her hand gently resting on her belly. There was no kicking, no sharp pain, but there was a warmth, a strange soft pulsing, as if her body had become part of the planet. Every few seconds her chest rose slowly, like she was breathing in rhythm with the land itself. Across the room, Jacob loaded a small plasma rifle. His old soldier side had returned. "We're being watched," he said quietly. Zelna looked up. "You saw something?" "No," Jacob replied. "But the goats won't go near the barn. That's enough for me." Earlier that morning, they had returned to the strange bloodstone under the roots. The map on it had changed, new lines, red glowing trails in the sky. And then it had shown a figure, dark and tall, moving toward the farm from orbit. Zelna had recognized him immediately. "Varoth," she whispered. He is the one they send when they want silence, not answers. Now sitting in the quiet cabin, Zaelna closed her eyes. The bloodstone's glow still burned in her memory. Its images had not faded. In her mind, she walked through a dream, a garden of stars, where her ancestors sang life into their children. They had been more than queens. They had been creators. Women of power born not to serve kings but to continue ancient bloodlines through energy, light, and voice. She was part of them. That's what the stone had shown her. Her blood was not empty, it had been blocked, suppressed by palace drugs and forced beliefs. Now that she was on the right soil, her true nature had awakened. The soil, the wind, even the moon seemed to respond to her now. She opened her eyes again. Jacob was at the door, watching the forest. "They'll try to take you," he said. Zaelna stood beside him. "Not just me," she said, voice steady. "They want the life inside me. They want to control it." Jacob looked at her, silent for a moment. "What do you want?" Zaelna placed her hand over her belly. "To protect what is real." In the sky above, a sleek black ship descended, silent as a shadow. It landed just beyond the hill near the old water tower. The grass turned black beneath its heat. Out stepped Vareth, 7 feet tall, dark armor that shimmered like oil, and eyes like ice. He carried no weapon. He didn't need one. "This place smells like dirt and weak things," he growled. "Let's end this joke." He moved quickly, scanning the land, and within minutes reached the edge of the field. But something was wrong. The plants shifted around him. Flowers bloomed, then died instantly in his shadow. A pulse from the soil made him stop. The earth rejected him. He clicked a button on his belt. A small orb floated up and began scanning. "Show me the source," he ordered. The orb beeped once, target located 60 meters ahead. Life form not fully human, not fully alien. "Unknown signal." Vareth's face twisted. "She bred?" he snarled. "With a human?" Back at the house, Jacob's radio beeped softly. He turned it up. Static, then a whispering voice in alien tongue. "Return the bearer. Return the child, or the soil will burn." Zaelna stepped closer. "He's here." Jacob grabbed a flashlight and his old sidearm. "Stay behind me." Zaelna didn't move. "He will not listen to you. He only listens to fear, or to power." She walked past Jacob and stepped outside into the field of glowing flowers. Vareth saw her. He stepped forward slowly. "Princess of shame," he hissed. "You carry poison in your womb." Zaelna stood tall. "You fear what you don't understand." "I do not fear," Vareth spat. "I erase." He raised a hand, but before he could strike, the ground beneath him shook. Vines rose from the earth, wrapping around his legs. The soil pulsed with light. The old power of the bloodstone was defending her. Zaelna spoke calmly. "This land knows who I am. It remembers my kind." Vareth struggled, but the vines grew tighter. He pulled a blade and sliced through, but the roots hissed and bled light. "This planet belongs to no king," Zaelna said, "and I am no longer Barren." Suddenly a blast hit the ground between them. Jacob had fired his plasma rifle, aiming at Vareth's feet. "You heard the lady," he said. "She's not going with you." Vareth snarled and activated his emergency beacon. A red light shot into the sky, calling reinforcements. He vanished into the trees, but his voice echoed in the air. "They know now. The royals know. They will come, and they will take the child." Zaelna stood silently, one hand on her belly, the other on the glowing stone beneath her feet. Jacob walked over. "Are you okay?" She looked at him, serious but calm. "I'm not just okay. I'm changing." The night after Vareth's warning felt too long. The wind did not move. The stars looked sharp like knives. Princess Zaelna stood by the window with a blanket around her shoulders, listening. She felt the land under the house breathing, slow, strong, protective. Inside her, the warm pulse answered it beat after beat. Jacob checked the doors one more time. "If they land, they'll come from the east ridge," he said. "Good cover, bad light." "They'll think that helps them." Zaelna nodded. "The ground will help us." Jacob gave a small smile. "I'm starting to believe that." A low rumble touched the sky. It wasn't thunder. It was engines. "They're here," Zaelna whispered. Over the hills, 3 black ships dropped out of the clouds like hungry birds. They formed a triangle, lights off, silent and hard. A row of soldiers stepped out, royal enforcers in dark armor with smooth masks. At their center, Vareth walked forward, tall and proud, a fresh scar across his cheek from the vines. He no longer looked patient. "Princess Zaelna," His voice rolled across the fields. By order of the Royal Council, you will return at once. The life you carry belongs to the throne. Jacob stepped outside first, rifle in his hands, but pointed down. She belongs to herself, he said calmly. And you don't own children. Feroth's mask tilted. Humans and their small words. He lifted his hand. Seize them. The soldiers moved as one. Zelna walked past Jacob and into the field. She did not shout. She did not beg. She simply sang, a low, steady note. It wasn't a full song, just a tone that came from her chest and from the warm pulse inside her. The earth heard it, the ground shivered. Thin roots slid up like fingers touching the soldiers' boots. The field's tiny glowing flowers opened wide and threw light into the soldiers' eyes. The men paused. One stumbled. Another raised a weapon and fired. The bolt hit the dirt and vanished. The soil drank the heat like water. Baroth watched, eyes cold. New tricks, he said. But tricks burn. He snapped his wrist. The ships lifted their noses and aimed at the farmhouse. Stop, Zelna said, voice still soft. You will wake the guardians, Baroth laughed. There are no guardians, only stories. Zelna placed a hand on the ground. The bloodstone under the roots answered with a deep tone like a bell in the earth. Something ancient opened. From the base of the hills, stone shapes rose, dark ribs of an old structure, long buried. They formed a half circle around the field like broken teeth. Blue lines flowed across them, lighting up one by one, a slow ring of power. The soldiers stepped back. Even the ships drifted a meter higher, unsure. Jacob stared. You have a temple under my carrots, he said, half shocked, half proud. Zelna's lips lifted. Your land kept a promise. Baroth waved the soldiers forward again. Take her, he snapped. The first line charged. Jacob fired warning shots at the ground near their feet. The earth heaved. A small wave of soil threw the soldiers onto their backs. Their helmets cracked. Their rifles sank halfway into mud that hadn't been wet in months. Last chance, Jacob said. His voice was quiet. Walk away. Baroth did not stop. He leaped forward himself faster than the others and slashed at Jacob with a short blade. Jacob blocked, but the blow still cut his arm. He grunted and stepped back. Baroth struck again. This time Jacob fell, the rifle skidding into grass. Zelna moved without thinking. She stood between them, hands raised. Enough. Baroth's blade sliced the air toward her and froze 5 inches from her skin. The blade shook, trapped in clear air. Baroth pushed with all his strength. Nothing. The space around Zelna had turned solid, humming with a tone only she and the ground could hear. Her eyes glowed silver. The child is not your trophy, she said. Baroth bared his teeth. If the throne cannot have it, no one will. He dropped the blade, grabbed a baton from his belt, and slammed it into the earth. A shockwave exploded across the field, breaking the frozen air shield, throwing Zelna back into Jacob's arms. The shock ran under the house, under the hills, and into the forming stone circle. The blue lights flickered. Zelna gasped. The warm pulse inside her dimmed for a second. Fear clawed her chest. Jacob, I've got you, he said, pulling her behind the old water tank for cover, blood slipping down his sleeve. The soldiers advanced again, slower now, more careful. One aimed at the tank. Jacob dragged Zelna away just as it blew apart, water spraying like rain over sand. Baroth pointed at the ground. Burn the roots, the ship engines roared. Heat washed over the field. Zelna pressed both palms to the soil. Her voice rose higher now, a second note joining the first. The field answered with a wave of cool air like a deep breath. The heat thinned, split, and flowed around them like a river parting around a stone. The blue lights on the ancient ribs steadied again. A new symbol formed in the air above Zelna. Bridge blood. Baroth saw it and went still. His eyes narrowed with real fear for the first time. No, he said softly. That line was erased. Zelna stood up. It waited, she said, for the right soil, for the right father. Her hand found Jacob's, bloody and warm. He squeezed once. Still here, he said. Baroth backed away a step, then pointed to the far hill. Fine, if the circle protects you, we will break the circle. From the ridge, the third ship turned, mouth opening to reveal a siege beam, thick, white, hungry. Zelna felt the child inside her stir, not with fear, but with answer. The beam fired. The ancient stones flared. and something vast woke beneath the farm, rising like a giant taking its first breath in 1,000 years. The siege beam hit the circle of ancient stones like a white hammer. Light broke into shards. The air shook. Princess Zelna felt the ground tighten under her feet as if the planet held its breath. Jacob pulled her close, his injured arm trembling but his grip steady. "Move," he said. "If that beam fires again, the circle may break." Zelna looked at the glowing ribs of stone, at the blue lines running across them like veins. "No, the circle wants us to go down," she whispered. "Not up. How do you know?" "I can hear it." Another blast roared from the ridge. The stones flared, held, then dimmed. Dust fell from the hill. The old water tower shivered and leaned. Veroth pointed, voice like iron. "Keep firing. The temple is weak." Zelna took Jacob's hand and ran toward the bloodstone under the roots. She pressed her palm to it and sang a low note. The stone warmed and slid sideways, revealing a dark opening, a round door of soil and light. "Tunnels," Jacob breathed. "Ancient ones," Zelna said. "Hurry." They slipped inside as the door closed behind them. The world above turned to muffled thunder. The tunnel was smooth like a throat made of stone. Pale lights woke in the walls as they moved, soft pearls that followed their steps. The air felt cool and clean. The floor hummed, a soft drum, steady and strong. Jacob gritted his teeth and tied a cloth around his bleeding arm. Zelna touched the wound. A small warmth passed from her fingers to his skin. The bleeding slowed. "You keep doing that," he said, trying to smile. "I do not try," she answered. "It just happens." He squeezed her hand. "Then keep not trying." They walked until the tunnel opened into a round chamber. In the center stood a low table of dark glass. On the floor were small marks like letters, old, worn but not dead. When Zelna stepped closer, the marks lit up and floated into the air, spinning slowly. Jacob whistled. "You called it." "Temple under my carrots," Zelna reached out. The letters shaped themselves into images. Queens standing in gardens of light, singing to the soil. Children born from glow and breath, not knives and pain. A line of power carried in the mother's voice, answered by the land. "Bridgeblood," Zelna read softly. "A child who belongs to two worlds at once." "Like ours," Jacob said. She nodded, eyes bright. Then the images changed. The light turned red. Soldiers in old armor. Palace doctors mixing dark medicine. A decree. All fertile lines will be controlled. Another decree. Some will be called barren. Some will be hidden. Power must stay with the throne. Zelna's hands shook. "They did this to us," she said. "They called it protection. It was control." Jacob's jaw tightened. "Then this temple is the last honest place left." The table flashed again. Now it showed a map of tunnels under the farm, stretching toward the mountains and the old riverbed. One path blinked brighter than the rest. "Escape route," Jacob said. "Let's move." They followed the bright path. The tunnel narrowed, then widened into a long hall with carvings on the walls. Mothers with open hands, fathers holding lamps, children with stars in their eyes. As they walked, Zelna felt the warm pulse inside her grow stronger. Not painful, present, awake. "I feel like the child knows where we're going," she said. "Good," Jacob said, "because I'm just guessing." They reached a fork. The left tunnel smelled like metal. The right smelled like wet stone and roots. "The left goes toward the ships," Zelna said. "The right goes toward something old." "Old sounds friendly today," Jacob answered. They went right. Above them, the world growled. The siege beam hit again. The sound came down the walls like thunder rolling through bones. Dust trickled from the ceiling. The lights flickered. "Faster," Jacob said. They ran until they reached another chamber, taller, with a stone column in the middle. A thin crack split the column from top to bottom. Inside it, something faintly glowed. Zelna stepped forward and placed both hands on the crack. "I know this," she whispered. "It is a root heart. It holds memory." She began to hum, low, careful, the way one speaks to a sleeping child. The crack widened a little. Light spilled out, forming a shape in the air. A woman with silver eyes, older than Zelna, wearing a crown grown from branches. When she spoke, the chamber vibrated. "Daughter of the quiet line," the figure said, "you were never barren. You were veiled. You were hidden because the throne feared the older power, the power that does not kneel." Zelna's breath caught. "Who are you?" "A guardian. A voice from the garden before the kings. Your child is Bridgeblood. She will wake doors that were closed." But you must survive this night. How? Take the river tunnel, the guardian said. When the floor trembles, stop. The ground will open a path. Trust the tremble. The light faded. The crack in the column sealed. Jacob blew out a breath. Trust the tremble. Got it. They hurried into the river tunnel. Water whispered somewhere ahead. The floor sloped downward. Roots hung like curtains. The air turned cool and damp. For a moment there was only the sound of their steps and the soft pulse inside Zelna. Then the floor trembled. They stopped. A slow line formed down the center of the passage. The earth folded back, revealing a narrow stair curling into darkness. A fresh wind rose from below, smelling like rain and stone. The path, Zelna said. After you, Jacob replied. They went down the steps, and the opening closed above them, hiding their trail. The stair ended in a cavern with an underground river running through it, black and smooth. A stone raft sat tied to a metal ring as if waiting. Jacob tested the rope. Still strong, they climbed onto the raft. The river took them, slow at first, then faster as the tunnel narrowed. The walls glowed in soft pulses, guiding them like stars. Zelna leaned into Jacob. I feel heavy, she said. Are you hurt? No, she whispered. Just close. Close to what? Before she could answer, the ground shuddered hard. Rocks cracked. A slab of ceiling fell behind them and smashed into the water. The river surged. The raft spun. Spray hit their faces. Hold on, Jacob shouted. Zelna gripped the side rope. Pain pressed low in her belly, sharp, hot, real. She gasped, eyes wide. Jacob, she whispered. It started. What started? She looked at him with fear and wonder mixed as one. The birth. The raft shot into a larger cavern. Above them the siege beam roared like distant thunder. The river pulled harder, the ceiling dropping dust and small stones. Jacob searched the shadows for a place to land. There, he said, pointing to a ledge. The raft bumped the rock. He dragged it close and lifted Zelna into his arms. Another tremor hit. The ledge cracked beneath his boots. The cavern groaned. The river roared and Zelna screamed, not in fear now, but in labor, while the ancient temple shook itself awake around them. The cavern roared like a sea inside a mountain. The underground river rushed past the ledge, spraying cold mist. Jacob held Princess Zelna close, his boots sliding on wet rock. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned bright. It hurts, she whispered, gripping his arm. It is strong. It is fast. I've got you, Jacob said. He scanned the cavern for shelter. On the far side, he saw a narrow shelf under a low stone arch. There, he said. We can brace there. Another tremor hit. Dust fell like ash. The blue lines in the stone flickered, then steadied. Jacob half-carried, half-guided Zelna to the shelf. He spread his coat on the rock and helped her sit. Zelna breathed slow, then faster, then slow again. Her hands pressed against the stone. It answers me, she said through clenched teeth. The ground. Answers. Jacob wiped water from his face. Good, let it help. A soft light rose under the arch. At first Jacob thought it was his eyes playing tricks. Then the light shaped itself into small glowing threads like fine roots. They wove a cradle of light beside Zelna's legs and warmed the rock. Zelna touched the glow and exhaled. It eases the pain. Then we're not alone, Jacob said. He took her hand. We do this together. Above them, the siege beam boomed again, dull and far. The temple bones answered with a deep hum that shook dust from the ceiling but did not break the arch. The river swelled, then fell. The ancient place held. A soft voice rose from the stone, no body, only sound. It was the voice from the root heart, older than any king. Breathe, daughter. The door is opening. Zelna closed her eyes and followed the voice. She breathed in. She breathed out. The warm pulse inside her grew stronger and steady, like a drum inside a drum. Jacob checked his bandage. Blood had dried along his sleeve, but he ignored it. He put his palm to the floor. The stone was warm, almost alive. He looked into Zelna's face. Tell me what you need. Your hands, Zelna whispered. Your voice, he squeezed her fingers. I'm here. Pain hit in a wave. Zelna cried out. The arch flared bright and the glowing cradle thickened like gentle hands holding her lower back. Jacob spoke to her in a steady voice, counting, breathing with her, waiting for the next wave. Between the pains, Zelna stared at the ceiling. She saw faint shapes moving in the stone. Mothers carved by light, hands raised, faces calm. They were not ghosts. They were memories. She was inside a memory and also making a new one. The water quieted. The air warmed. Even the trembling paused as if the whole cavern gave her room. Another pain rose fast. "It's time," Jacob said softly. "You can do this," Zelna nodded, jaw tight. She pushed with the earth, not against it. She let the ground carry half the weight. The old voice guided her. Not by fear, by breath. Not by iron, by the open door, Zelna pushed. Light bled from the stones like dawn under snow. Jacob felt the heat rise around them and did not pull away. A small cry answered the cavern. Zelna's body relaxed all at once. Tears filled her eyes. "Is it?" Jacob's hands shook, but his voice was steady. "She's here." He lifted the newborn into the light. The baby was warm and slick and real. Her skin held a soft glow like moonlight on water. She took a sharp breath, opened her mouth and cried again, but the sound was not harsh. It was clear and bright like a bell. The cavern changed at that cry. Blue lines swept across the walls. The river slowed, as if bowing. The arch poured thin light like rain. Far above, in the tunnels, the shock of the siege beam dimmed to a whisper. In orbit, ships blinked and drifted off course for a breath. For one moment, everything listened. Zelna reached out, shaking. Jacob placed the child in her arms. The baby's small hand pressed to Zelna's chest. The glow in both of them matched, pulse to pulse. Zelna laughed and sobbed together. "Hello," she whispered. "Little Bridge." The baby calmed at her voice and looked up. Her eyes opened. They were silver like Zelna's, but in the center of each eye a tiny dark ring turned slowly, like the seed of a world. Jacob stared. "She has the land in her eyes." Zelna kissed the baby's forehead. "And your steadiness in her breath." Jacob cleared his throat and looked away for a second. He blinked hard. "She's perfect," the old voice returned, gentler now. "Child of earth and sky, hear your mother and your father. The garden remembers you." The newborn blinked once and made a small soft sound. The thin roots of light around the cradle curled closer, warm and careful. To shield her from the cavern air, the peace did not last. From the far tunnel came the echo of metal on stone. Boots. Voices. A hard, clipped command in royal tongue. The enforcers had found a way down. Jacob picked up his rifle with his good hand. "I'll hold them." Zelna's head snapped toward the sound. The glow along the arch dimmed and gathered, ready like a muscle. "Wait," she said. "She can answer." The baby did not cry. She watched the dark tunnel with wide eyes. Her tiny fingers opened and closed as if catching wind. The first soldier stepped into the chamber, mask smooth, weapon raised. He saw Jacob, then Zelna, then the child. He froze. More soldiers crowded behind him. The leader lifted his rifle. By order of the council, the river rose between the ledge and the tunnel, a sudden wall of water standing without falling. It was not a wave. It was a door, vertical and clear, lit from inside. The leader fired. The bolt hit the water and vanished like a stone thrown into sky. The soldiers stumbled back. "What is this?" Jacob kept his gun low. He did not shoot. He did not need to. Zelna held the baby close and spoke softly. "Bridge blood," she whispered. Open and close, the water door flexed like glass. Then it pushed forward, not fast, not violent, just firm. It moved the soldiers back down the tunnel as if sweeping dust from a floor. Their shouts faded, the door fell back into a river again. Calm. Flowing. Jacob exhaled. "I will never argue with bath time again." Zelna smiled tiredly. "She is strong, but she is still a child. We must leave this place." From far above, a new sound rolled down the stone, deeper than engines, older than thunder. The guardians were waking in full. The temple had called them, or the child had. Maybe both. Jacob listened, eyes narrowing. "That's not the ships." "No," Zelna said. She looked at her daughter. "That's the ground standing up." The arch brightened again and formed a thin path of light along the cavern wall, a way forward where there had been only stone. Zelna stood, weak but steady. Jacob wrapped his coat around her and the baby. He picked up the rifle and nodded at the path. "We walk," he said. They took the first steps. Behind them, deep in the tunnel they had left, a cold voice echoed, full of anger and fear that he tried to hide. Varoth had arrived. "Run, little garden," he hissed, his words sliding like knives along the rock. "Run as far as you can. I will still take the child." Zelna did not turn. The child's tiny hand pressed to her heart. The path grew brighter under their feet. Above ground, the night sky over the farm turned the color of dawn. The path of light clung to the cavern wall like a narrow ribbon. Jacob walked close to the edge with his rifle ready, one arm steadying Princess Zelna as she carried the newborn. The Bridgeblood baby was quiet, awake, and warm. Her small fingers gripped Zelna's cloak and would not let go. Above them, the old temple sang, deep, slow, calm. The river behind softened to a whisper, but from the far tunnel came the sharp echo of Veroth's boots, patient and sure. "He's not rushing," Jacob said. "He thinks we will tire," Zelna answered. "He believes fear will make us fall." The light path ended at a round door of stone. Symbols spun across it like small moons. Zelna pressed her palm to the center. The door opened on night air, cool, sweet, filled with the smell of wet grass and smoke from the broken water tower. They stepped out in the shadow of the hills. The 3 royal ships still hung above the farm. Soldiers stood in broken lines, unsure. The ancient ribs around the field glowed like a crown. The siege beam was quiet now, as if afraid to speak. A crack formed in the ground at their feet. From it rose 3 figures of stone and light, tall, gentle, old as mountains. Their bodies looked carved, but their eyes were alive. When they bowed, the hills bowed with them. "Guardians," Zelna whispered. The first guardian spoke, voice like a drum under water. "Daughter of the quiet line, son of dust and iron, you carry the Bridgeblood. The garden is awake." Jacob shifted his weight, not sure if he should bow back. "We're trying to keep her safe," he said. "We can use help." "You have it," said the second guardian. "But the throne must hear the new truth." Zelna looked at the ships, then at the temple. Her voice did not shake. "Then we don't hide. We go." The third guardian raised an arm. The stone ribs widened until they formed a long, seed-shaped craft of living rock. Its surface glowed in soft waves like breath. Jacob stared. "You had this in my carrot patch too?" Zelna's tired smile returned. "Your farm is very rich." They stepped into the craft. The door sealed with a low hum. The ship rose without fire, without noise, held up by a will older than kings. As it climbed, Veroth emerged from the tunnel mouth, mask off, face pale with fury. He shouted into his comm, "Bring them down." The royal ships turned and fired, thin lines of light meant to slice. The guardian ship did not dodge. It opened. For a moment, the sky above the farm looked like water under moonlight. The beam slid into it and vanished, swallowed without harm. Inside the craft, Zelna held her child close. Jacob stood beside her and watched the enemy shrink beneath them. He did not speak. He felt the ship's silent strength and followed its quiet. They broke through cloud into the clean dark of orbit. Stars turned. The royal flagship hung ahead, black, heavy, sure of itself. "Take me to the palace," Zelna said to the ship. "Take me to the council hall." The craft obeyed. The palace world was a pearl in the dark. White towers, blue oceans, rings like thin silver lines. The guardian craft slipped through defense screens as if they were mist. Alarms screamed across the capital. Soldiers filled balconies. Counselors ran to the great hall. The throne waited at the end of a long road of light. The High King, old and narrow-eyed, sat stiff in his chair. Around him stood doctors, chancellors, and proud nobles in glowing cloth. They wore faces made strong by lies told for too long. The doors burst open. Zelna walked in with the newborn wrapped to her chest. Jacob walked at her side, coat torn, arm bandaged, rifle slung but quiet. They stepped onto the circle of judgment, the place where she had been called barren and useless. No one laughed now. The king lifted a hand. "Princess Zelna, you were sent away to spare you shame. What is this spectacle?" Zelna's voice was simple. "It is not spectacle. It is truth." She unwrapped the cloth. The baby woke and looked at the hall. Her eyes, silver with small dark rings, reflected the ceiling lights and made them seem like seeds ready to grow. A low murmur moved through the nobles. The palace doctors went still, as if turned to salt. Veroth arrived at the back, chest heaving. He forced his way forward and fell to one knee. "My king, the child is an offense. The old power is unstable. Take it for the labs." Jacob's hand twitched toward his rifle. Zelna did not move. She stepped to the center of the circle and placed her palm on the floor. "The garden speaks," she said. The marble under her hand turned to living stone. Thin roots spread out through the hall. Flowers opened between the king's shoes. Blue lines rose along pillars. The ceiling, painted long ago with fake stars, filled with real light. The guardians' voices rolled through the palace. Hear the bridge, blood. The throne tried to cut the river and call it order. The river returns, the king stood, color leaving his face. This is treason, he whispered. This is healing, Zelna answered. You labeled our mothers as broken. You took our daughters to your doctors. You called control a cure. No more, the counselors argued, shouted, waved seals in the air. The guardians simply watched. Jacob stepped forward one pace.